lived in Appleton most of my life. I moved away for college, and I'm one of the few people that actually came back to Appleton. There was a certain feel that I remember that this congregation had when I was a kid that isn't here now, and I'd like to be part, facilitate maybe getting us back to that.
Very often people feel that they have very good lives in small towns because there is this sense of community in a small town that you certainly find it hard to reproduce in a big city.
Unpretentious is the city's middle name. It really sums up both the congregation and the town. And actually the Midwest was not on my radar screen, and I had a friend in Minneapolis who was already in the pulpit who pointed out Wausau to me and said, "It's your kind of place." And then actually I crossed it off my list, and I had a friend who has a cottage in Eagle River who was in my class. And she said, "Put it back on your list. This is your kind of place." So the North Woods, the lakes, the being in proximity to nature, all of that had appeal, as well as the size. I wanted to be in a small congregation. I grew up in a small congregation and wanted to work in one. So there's sort of this interesting adjustment as we use those, and they kind of, you can feel it as you read it. You feel the congregation going, "Is that what it says?" Oh, I know that. You really can get involved in the life of your synagogue. You can be sure your rabbi knows who you are. You can be sure your rabbi really knows your kids. And there's a rule: you can't be taller than your rabbi before your You can be sure that your contribution makes a difference and that you feel that you feel what one of my members called instant macherhood, instant big shotness.
I was a guy who had grown up at the beginning of the Civil Rights Movement. I was active because, both as a Jew and a journalist, I should be, but it was part of the same set of beliefs, which is we are a community. And B'nai B'rith was a men's-only organization. Women played an absolutely central role in the congregation. They read from the Torah, they ran the services, and so we passed a resolution saying we couldn't change what B'nai B'rith did nationally, but locally, as far as we were concerned, men and women were both members. That was that. And we publicized it. And people don't know where the Chippewa Valley B'nai B'rith Lodge is or how big it is, and so they took it with some seriousness.
My dad was very active in the congregation, and his father was active in the congregation, and his name is up on a plaque that he's one of the founders of the congregation. Never in my wildest dreams ever thought I would become the chairman or the leader of the administrative part of the congregation, and pretty much all my life worked to avoid having to do anything like that, but now I'm actually pretty excited about it.
The sale of this synagogue is coming about because our numbers are shrinking and the amount of dues assessment has not gone up. And in maintaining such a facility, you incur debt.
It was really hard to take care of for us financially. It literally was our whole budget for a year just to do the heating and cooling and snow plowing and mowing and things. This was the booklet that was produced when we had the opening of our previous synagogue, the one we just moved out of. There are people that feel bad that they went through all that. They built that place, and we're just selling it and moving.
We want to find a building or build a building that is going to be easier to maintain financially, yet at the same time fulfill the needs of our congregation.
There are people that are very nervous about the move to a new building, or nervous about the fact that we're moving out of this building.
Some would say we should never have sold it. Others are saying, now we don't have a home.
I think there's still a lot of worry about the future of our congregation.
There is a certain amount of uncertainty.
I definitely think of myself as a small town person. I just really feel comfortable in a smaller place. And that, I think, is reflective of why I chose to serve, and I've stayed so long in the congregation that I'm in now in Kenosha. We bought a home in the north side of Kenosha, and we lived in it full time for 14 years. And then in addition to keeping our home here, we bought a duplex in Whitefish Bay in suburban Milwaukee because we wanted our daughter to go to the Jewish day school. We thought it'd be a fit for her to have a day school education. From 3rd through 8th grade, she went to the day school. And in 2 years, when my daughter graduates from high school, we're moving back here to Kenosha full time. So we've been sort of going back and forth, the weekends in Kenosha and the weekdays in Whitefish Bay. And so it was strictly based on their needs that we made that move.
Our son Randy was born in '74, and as he grew a little older and we started having more contact with the synagogue in La Crosse, it seemed like we were running to La Crosse 2-3 nights a week, and it was real difficult with a with a young child. And we made the decision to find a home in La Crosse. It's not a large Jewish, community in La Crosse. There's like 50 families in the congregation, but it is a Jewish congregation and Jewish contacts. It was a difficult move. A lot of people did not take it well. Oh, you're still good enough to be in business in Viroqua, but you're living in La Crosse. Most people didn't matter, but there were some that did matter.
To grow up in Rhinelander and have a boyhood here is an unbelievably beautiful experience. I can't express how great it was growing up here. I knew how to swim. I played hockey. I went fishing. I went hunting. I was active in the Boy Scouts. I wish my kids could have had it because it was so open, so warm, so beautiful. My wife in Norway would come to Rhinelander. This was not a place to raise a nice Jewish boy. There weren't any other Jewish kids here at the time, like there aren't any other Jewish kids here today. They were all leaving. As the kids came home, went off to school, got married, the only ones left here were the old folks. The kids never came back here.
I remember what it was like when I was a kid. It was a pretty vibrant, active congregation that we had Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Friday night, and Saturday services. Now we just have Saturday services. I was working in public accounting. I was involved in the tax world, and I just didn't feel the pull to be doing that for my whole life. I saw my dad and his sister running a very successful business that I wanted to keep it successful and keep it going. No, but that's where I like those. I like to get involved. If I wasn't here, I like to think that probably we wouldn't have the business anymore, because my dad's sister passed away in 1998, and he's 80 now, so I don't think he would be wanting to do this all alone. So it's my intention to keep it going.
We're the Jewish embassy in the Northwoods. And when people want to find something Jewish, we're what they call. If churches want to educate their kids in other faiths, we're going to get a phone call. Actually, that last part is a huge part of what we do here. This is over 100 years old. Over time, would really do damage to the Torah. So this really helps protect it. In an average year, we might get 40 church groups coming through the building. We've had to modify that, actually. When I first came, they came to services. And frankly, you get 40 wonderful Lutherans sitting there with 8 congregants on a quiet Friday night. It didn't work well. So when church groups call and say they want to come to service, we direct them to our community Shabbat. And on that evening, we'll get 150 people out. It'll be nice. It's a big night.
I think we've thought of ourselves as part of the community and as part of the Jewish community. You wore both hats. You were part of both. It was just life there.
There were variances in my Orthodox world in Appleton that perhaps you wouldn't find maybe in a big city like New York, where there was a whole community of people that worked together. I grew up in an Orthodox home that made concessions. My grandparents respected all rules, all traditions. My parents respected most. For example, I remember when the very first pizza parlor came to Appleton, it's still there. My dad said, well, I've never seen one of these, let's try it. Well, it wasn't obviously kosher, but we tried it, and we didn't feel bad.
I think my parents' generation became very comfortable as Jews in America. And I'm not saying that my grandparents' generation didn't feel that way, but I think it was on a whole new level of comfort and security and confidence to be a full participant in everything that American life offers.
My mother was more interested in being assimilated and being a Yankee rather than an Orthodox Jew in a community where there were no Orthodox Jews. That generation didn't have a choice. They had to assimilate if he wanted to participate in this community. An Orthodox Jew could not stand to be all by himself, do his own thing.
If you were in a small town and you were Catholic, you didn't think about sort of connecting with other people. But when you were really a minority, then why not? I mean, you could ride everyone's coattail and it was just fine.
We always celebrated Christmas just with the rest and used to go out on the farm and get a branch and trim it. And of course, the rabbi didn't like the idea we had trees. We used to call them Hanukkah bushes, and that didn't fly either.
We had friends in Chippewa Falls who were Catholic, and I watched my daughter and their daughter, who were the same age, figure out that Christmas was really a good deal because Hanukkah that year overlapped it. And so, the one said to the other, here's the deal. You come to my house for the 8 nights of Hanukkah, and I'll go to your house for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and we'll be the only kids in town with 10 days.
Generally speaking, the small Jewish communities are not viable enough to create partners for the children. And you find the second generation moving back to the big cities, and you see this all over the United States.
Over 50% of young Jews marry outside of the faith. So we're dealing here with another issue that has to do with a smaller Jewish community. Non-Jews marrying Jews produce families that will not necessarily remain Jewish. In other words, the children may not be brought up as Jews. So within another generation, that family may not have any Jewish connection.
Our children were brought up with Passover and Rosh Hashanah and ritual. So